Hello, everybody. My name is Rafael Chacín, as known as el Capitán Rafucho, and welcome to Let Him Speak, which is a program about topics from sports to entertainment. And right now, we had a special episode coming out because after the Senior Bowl, which is in Alabama, right now is the Super Bowl week between Kansas City Chiefs versus San Francisco 49ers. And right now, I had the extraordinary pleasure because he's my guest and he's the second time we're here because I know that I had a podcast on Raiders, Silver Black Experience, talking about for Raiders versus Giants. So right now, for the second time, I had the extraordinary pleasure to introduce a man who has great knowledge in New York sports. So, ladies and gentlemen, we just had Alice, Big Blue in the Blondes. How's it going, Big Blue in the Blondes? Salute. This is the second time we just met each other for like a podcast, but this time we're talking about for the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, and what expectations that I had to New York Giants before the NFL draft. So, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, the Senior Bowl experience was my first this year, and we got to explore mobile. But most importantly, our focus down there was just scouting different players, interviewing. I think we got over 30 interviews between our respective teams. So, obviously be on the lookout for more publications and stuff like that. But I expect the Giants to have heavy interest in guys coming from the Senior Bowl. They added a lot of underclassmen this year, so it's not just seniors; it's juniors who declared for the NFL draft. It's also sophomores if they declared for the NFL draft and were invited to the Senior Bowl. So it kind of opens up the gates for a lot of scouts to look at these guys from a better angle. And the thing I like about the Senior Bowl most, Raf, is you see a lot of small school guys go against bigger competition. Guys from like small schools go against like SEC, regular college football schools. So definitely a fun time. Definitely got my fair share of knowledge about these guys. Can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking about for the Senior Bowl, which is realized in Mobile, Alabama, which is the week before the Super Bowl. So I got a question for you, Alex. So who you were to take from the New York Giants? Because right now they're going to experiment something to fill in at the defense, defensive tackle, offense. Because the last season it just went so well under Brian DeBall, but they need a lot of action on those weapons. So one of those cases, the quarterback, which is playing uncomfortable, which is the off season. So right now, Daniel Jones is not that well. They have to precisely yet because they will now have a new quarterback on the roster, but it will likely one of the hot shot prospects. But if you saw like at one of the process of the Senior Bowl, what would have to New York Giants to go out there to see which quarterback is going to be good to the backup for Tommy DeVito and Daniel Jones because they won't take a like a quarterback on the draft, not very necessarily, but there's another drafting like Cal Williams, Drake May, even Jaden Daniels, but it could be interesting, but it will be off of the board because they're gonna add in like a pass catching weapon like Ronald Deuce from Washington. I mean, in that point of the Senior Bowl, which is realized in Mobile, Alabama, which players are going to take it from the draft in the New York Giants to playing in to add some action to both the defense and the offense?
Yeah, so I'll start with quarterback. I think the Giants are definitely going to draft a quarterback this year. Where is going to be very much undetermined because right now there's a lot of reports going out there about the Giants definitely keeping Daniel Jones. They're going to keep Daniel Jones either way, like whether they draft a quarterback or not. They cannot financially get rid of him. But to be in a situation where they could keep him, they could bring another veteran backup in, they could bring somebody in, draft them in the first round, which is a little unlikely, but not totally. I would say a foreign concept like trading up to one or something like that, where a quarterback falling to them. One of the main concepts that's been brought up this entire offseason so far is taking a developmental quarterback. Now, that's not really my planned option or really preferred option for the New York Giants because I think you need to draft the guy within the first two rounds, get somebody going behind Daniel Jones. And, if he stinks it up the first 8 games of the season, you put the rookie in, and then you move forward. So whereas a developmental prospect, I mean, their ceiling is not necessarily high at all. And then you might have to select the quarterback the next year. So it's kind of a flawed process. But it is very interesting because this year was probably the best class of quarterbacks that were down in mobile. Michael Penix is a projected late first, early second round pick, who I happen to like a lot. We got to see him in the national championship game against Michigan. We also got to see Bo Nix, who played at Oregon, passed for 45 touchdowns this season, was previously at Auburn. He was there. And then also a guy that I think the Giants could definitely target, and they have spoken to this guy. I was actually talking to him personally, and he's a known quarterback across college, not necessarily a first round pick, but more in that developmental range. Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina, who used to play for Lincoln Riley over at Oklahoma. He's a guy that's talked to the New York Giants. They've had conversations. To the extent, I don't know, but he is definitely of the caliber that they could say, hey, listen, if we're not going to get a quarterback in the first round, if the one doesn't fall to us and we want to trade up, he's a guy that we could take and try to develop, because I do feel that Spencer Rattler does have a little bit of a ceiling, but also he does have, I think he's got potential, right? I think he's still got, game to grow. I think he's got things to get better on. As far as now, personally, I would like them to take a quarterback in the first round. But as far as other things go, you were talking about defense, you were talking about offense, and all these other different things. There were a couple good defensive linemen down there. You were mentioning it, right? The Giants haven't been able to stop the run on a consistent basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Braden Fisk from Florida State, he stood out in one-on-ones. He stood out in 7-on-7. Well, not 7-on-7s, but he stood out in 11-on-11s too. Another guy that stood out to me is Marcus Harris, who I personally scouted out of Auburn. His main upside is in the running game, stopping the run, and he's got some nice pass rush moves that could be maneuvered. And there's a couple other guys down there, Justin Eboigbe out of Alabama. So there's definitely some good defensive linemen down there. If they're going to take one in the third, the fourth, the fifth round, just for depth purposes. And the last thing I could say, they probably wouldn't go corner in the first round, but corner was pretty good. Wide receiver was decent down there. Edge, Letu out of UCLA, he's probably the top prize prospect, but he had his fair share of wins against Talis Fuaga, who's another first round pick. But yeah, those are the main guys I would point out.
That's correct. And of course, there's a lot of big impressions because there's a lot of great defense. And speaking about for the defense, right now, exactly 2 days ago. So right now, they just fired Titans defensive coordinator Shea Bowen to the new defensive coordinator per source. Both Joshua and Brian DeBall stressing the importance they're taking about the time for the process. But right now, they just replace Wink Martell. I mean, to be fair about for this hiring and about the process from the New York Giants, I mean that they're definitely their play for well, giving up like a ton of yards, both holding up them to the field goals. I mean, the defense are very comparable, so probably it won't be a matter of the hire, but he's not a word beater. I mean, I really thought that Bowen's gonna be like a good defensive coordinator with so limited talent with about as much tenure, but that score defense is pretty much the best of the knowledge, which the defense should be mature. I mean, there's gonna be shaping up for the ball, and they gotta add on like another coach under Daniel Jones and Rise repeat for this build segment again with a new coach staff. I don't know about that means, but it can certainly seem that with the rushes, some the worst in the league over the years on the pass rush state. So, how do you feel about the impression about the new defensive coordinator Sean Bowen? They right now replaced Wink Martindale. So, how do you feel about that? Had the former had Titans defensive coordinator to put in off of the defense is very good or is very bad for the defense during the next season.
Okay, yeah. Shane Bowen, he's not my favorite guy out of the group that was being interviewed by the New York Giants. Personally, my favorite, I wanted Denard Wilson, who is the secondary coach over in Baltimore. He is now the Tennessee Titans defensive coordinator. So it's funny how
Mm-hmm.
the circle kind of rounds itself. But as far as Shane Bowen goes, I looked into his defenses, I looked in some of the personnel, and guaranteed he didn't have the greatest personnel ever over in Tennessee, and especially in the cornerback room, right? It was very, very, limited ceiling for those guys. And I kind of compare that to our cornerback room right now because Deontay Banks, I mean, he needs more wide receiver one matchups. Adoree Jackson's a free agent. We don't have a slot corner solidified depending on the defense we want to play. I mean, Darnay Holmes, who's a free agent, he plays better in zone. Cordell Flott plays better in man and doesn't understand the zone concepts. I think it could be a good point. Xavier McKinney, if they resign him or not, I think he could definitely flourish in this defense. I like Jason Pinnock in this defense, especially too, because he's a guy that can go all over the field. And Shane Bowen likes to stack the box. Dane Belton, I'd like to be a safety, a deep safety in this scenario. But like my problem with the whole Bowen thing is, first of all, there was a lot of coaches that just elected to go elsewhere. Why? I don't know, but that's a little suspicious. Number two is that their defenses never really reached a certain point. They never really reached top 10. You look at the run defense, spectacular for most of the years that he was there. I think it was 2 out of 3 years they had like a top 10, top 15 run defense. And that's great. You know, we haven't been able to stop the run worth a crap. Obviously, there's a lot of things and variables involved in there. My problem is that they also give up a lot of pass plays, a lot of 20-yard plus pass plays. The last 2 years, I mean, I think they were 25th this year and 32nd in 2022. That's not good, right? Comparable corner talent, that's not good. So I want to know what's going on there. He sticks to a lot of zone. He doesn't blitz a lot. So the Giants definitely, I guess, in this part of the defense or in this specific defense, they need to go out and attack another edge rusher spot, definitely another corner. I've had Titan fans talk to me about Shane Bowen, but to me, unless we have legitimate all-pro dogs like the 49ers and some of these other teams in the NFL, this defense does not have a high ceiling. And he plays zone because a lot of his defenses in the past, they were pretty much bend but don't break. Like the Giants fans saw this with Patrick Graham. Not a huge blitz guy because of the personnel, but very good red zone defenses. And that's comparable to Shane Bowen's philosophy. Now, the problem with that is bend but don't break concepts. They take time off the clock, depending if they're running the football, passing the football, whatever the opposition does. And the Giants right now have probably one of the worst offenses in the NFL coming into the draft, coming into the offseason. And they need to be an average offense for this defense to actually work. If not, the Giants, in my opinion, will be in trouble.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about it because, in that opinion, for this one, I mean, they're gonna have to the metrics are the metrics. I mean, the run defense should be much improvised because I just feel like the personnel opera from more Tennessee, they're just like a top 5 run defense, and Boyd was just there. I mean, if he wasn't really like a decent, but this is like they really like unless you had another option on the table. He came up with Austin something brilliant against Miami the last season. On paper, the Titans should be like a building up for the Dolphins, but they just play exceptionally on the defense. But they just took it a very time for the process. In fact, they took a lot of time that all of the good candidates were hard. So they just left with the guy which is very unsurprisingly here. But let's just move on to the next question right here. So we're just talking about for the senior ball, and I just wanted to talk about it. What was the player who had the most impact during the senior ball, like underrated, like at any positions like quarterback, wide receiver? What was the player who impacted the most on senior ball during that year?
Yeah, there's definitely a couple you could hand out. Defensive line. I mean, offensive tackle, I'll start there. Talis Fuaga, before he decided not to play and not to practice on the last day, he definitely held his own mostly. Um, I think there was a lot of versatile players there, but again, Fuaga held his own. As far as tight ends go, I mean, they didn't really show up to the last day of practice. I'd go AJ Barner, guy out of Michigan, very good run blocker. As far as wide receivers go, it was very inconsistent. Xavier Legette had a good day in the middle, so that was Wednesday, but Tuesday and Thursday he didn't have a good day. One of the more consistent players I will say is Spencer Rattler. Like he had some very good practices, he even threw a touchdown in the game. So there's that. As far as running backs go, I don't think it was too consistent, but Amani Bailey, who actually showed up very well in the game, um, he is a guy that I would look for. As far as corners go, I thought DJ James played pretty well on the defensive side of the football. As far as safeties go, Tyke Smith, he was pretty good. So, and also I have to give another guy some creds before he went home on Wednesday. That was Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, and he's projected to be like a late first, early second, someone who's a really good run blocker. He's got a mean attitude, all those different things. So he was one of the more consistent guys. And Gabe Hall was pretty good. He's out of Baylor, mostly known as a run defender from what I could gauge. But As far as consistent players, I don't think, other than JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, I don't think everyone had, well, maybe again, Spencer Rattler too. I don't think everyone had like straight across the board 3 days. They were great. They were excellent, especially the wide receiver core. But those are the main guys that stuck out to me as far as the Senior Bowl goes. But also, I have to give credit to Georgia wide receiver Lad McConkey. He was probably one of the more consistent ones.
Yes, because during for the Senior Bowl, there was a lot of different styles that we just see for different players. I mean, look at it for the quarterbacks, wide receivers, also for the defense. They just made like a great impact. But during that year, which is 2024, I mean, Quinton Minchell was easily the best player, and he was one of the highest rate corners, and it was extremely good that year. I know he did play at the back conference, but he didn't have a ton of experience in press. But also, there's another one, Tyler Goodson. He took a wing with his measures, weighing out at his 6 foot, 7 foot, with 34-inch horns. He was really good at the one that was stonewalling a good chunk of the competition. But also, there's Jackson Powers Johnson, easily one of the best lines today. He won every rep with not much difficulty because he really had the competition between Cedric Bonson, Zach Frazier, are injured or not, because I think he sent up center and he could be easily like a first round pick. And I know for a fact because this Senior Bowl is going to be like the road for the NFL draft starts right here in Mobile, Alabama. And then on April, which is kind of like the biggest thing, which is the NFL draft. Who's going to be drafted? Who's going to be another? Because there's a lot of players in different positions earning that spot from that team for the next season, 2024-2025 season. And I just seen like a lot of great impact players because we just seen like the bright future of the NFL, because we just see like great players in college football. But right now we just see like a bright future at the NFL, because after that we just see like Peyton Manning, Eli Manning. Also, we just got Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's just not about the time to see like the brand new generation that the NFL just got it, because there's a lot of players with good instinct, good impact can take from another level.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. And as I stated earlier, there's a lot of guys. You mentioned one of them, Quinyon Mitchell, who I forgot to mention. He played at Toledo. He played at a small college, and I think there was one game in particular he had 4 interceptions. And whether he'll do that at the NFL, we don't know. But standing out against some of this top tier talent, Devontae Walker, coming out of UNC, was a projected first round pick. Some of these other cats, and getting an interception off Bo Nix, all these other different things. He was one of the standouts, and again, he came from a small school, and this is how they rise up draft boards. So Mitchell is probably right now. I mean, I have to look at one of the guys because I had a team of 4 guys do scouting reports. I'm going to see what his projection says, but I would say second round pick easily for Quinyon Mitchell right now.
Yes, and I agree with that. All right, so before we kind of wrap it out right now, so there's one question that we getting used to it, because right now there's going ahead for the 2024 season for the Major League Baseball, which we all love to see the different teams in baseball. So right now, let's just have it for one thing before we kind of wrap this up. So how do you feel about the process that's going to happen to the New York Yankees? I know this seems very down for the off season, but I just wanted to going up for the Patreon to the market value spring training. I mean, that they're one of the teams that are surpassing of all of the stands. And I mean, there's one thing that I couldn't get enough with to stay competitive with the assumption of the healthy and effective roster. They don't seem like they recognize to the care that the fact that there's really unlike it. Because if Lamar, Judge, and Stanton will have 500 arrive of Avian Cortez, Rondon, and Stroman and make it like 30 effective starts, I mean, that could be a really team. But I'm not really afraid about the current constructive team. So what if I going to do? I had the governing team, which Yamamoto doesn't enough under the increased playing time. Gosling is kind of hard. The off time is going out for a big injury. The steal rates can there. So how do you feel about for the 2024 season for the New York Yankees? It's gonna be like a really healthy, or it's gonna be like a the same but against for the other season. So it's gonna be like a very healthy. It's gonna burn it out for the defense.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say their off season thus far has been an A minus or a B plus. Juan Soto was the biggest move, and I think that's a move that had to be made. Getting that caliber talent over here, and really because he does a lot of different things, and I've been watching him for so many years now, and he's still a young kid. Now, obviously, he has yet to get a contract extension. I think he's got this year, and that's it. And he didn't want to sign a contract extension with his new team. But the presence he's going to be in New York is going to be really good. Actually, really good is more of an understatement. He walks a lot, which is a good thing. Walks more than he strikes out, and the Yankees love to strike out. But reason why I say it's like an A minus to a B plus is I'm a little worried about the starting rotation rather than I am the bats. And in Major League Baseball, it's different than the NFL because the NFL is not as easy to run it back and sell people on running it back. As far as MLB goes, it is easier to sell people on running it back and getting all these injured guys back and whatnot. I thought the Alex Verdugo trade was a good one. Personally, he's a good left-hander. He's going to get a lot more production with the short porch and right field. But again, going back to my questions, is the starting rotation. They signed Marcus Stroman. Not a big fan of that. I think it could work out. I don't think he personally, me, will live up to the contract that he was given, though it's not necessarily a bad deal in and out. Nestor Cortez, I think he could bounce back to himself. I think he just had a down year last year. Carlos Rodon, that's going to be a big question mark, big fat question mark in the rotation because, the Yankees signed him to a big contract. I think it was $33 million or somewhere 27, something along those lines. Didn't have a good season last year, was very much injured, and Clark Schmidt is your 5. That's solid. But also, you go to the bullpen, you kind of have a little bit more of questions than answers, and that could be a good or bad thing. They took a lot of low risk, high reward type guys from the Dodgers. Victor Gonzalez they traded for when they sent over their prospect Trey Sweeney. They traded for Caleb Ferguson. They traded for a couple of the different guys that haven't done much in their careers or haven't gotten very much league recognition. I wanted them to go out there and re-sign Wandy Peralta, but he got more money in San Diego. So the bullpen does worry me a little bit. The starting rotation does worry me a little bit, but I hope that Anthony Volpe could take a little bit of a forward step and that the bottom of the lineup won't be as atrocious with everybody going down a spot. And I would like to see another good year from Gleyber Torres, but I think this team is easily first or second place within the division. And I think right now they could get past the wild card and maybe even go into the championship series, I should say.
Yeah, I heard that about it, and it seems that they had the goal because right now there's a lot of difficulties, and there's a lot. It seems that the defense has gone to building up for the 2024 season for the New York Yankees, and I know there seems like they're still rumbling into each other, but I guess the defense and the offense could beat it off together after all the sets for the organization have been passed for the 2023 season for the Yankees. So, yeah, there's some lessons that can be learned, but it seems like they were down for the off season. Then, unless they're gonna pick it up for like an under marketability in spring training, I mean, if they're gonna make a move because there's still free agents who out there who haven't signed off and may be forced to take some expensive 1 year or 2 years with a player option contract. But I don't think it's gonna be like a Sanford Will game, like a game changer at that point. But even with some pitching depth, I would love to see that. And it's amazing that it's just added to a really insane dispenser, but they still are looking for like second place in the East. I mean, given the resources available to Brian Cashman, as it'll be like a general manager. But I think they had to do done with major moves, but definitely it's not gonna be like one of the best divisions. But I see like because they just look at it like a power caliber pitcher or a batter because look at the big step for the organization for the New York Yankees because right now they just had a tough competition between Baltimore Orioles, Toronto Blue Jays, Boston Red Sox, Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, they always find the great until they get counting off of the over, but it should be like a tough competition on that conference on the baseball.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Rays always are in it every year. The Orioles, they just made a huge trade for Corbin Burns, who was a very good reliever starter over in Milwaukee. You know, the Jays are. I never really believe in the Jays hype because I feel like they talk more than they actually do, but nonetheless, they'll be in the thick of things. And I don't really think Boston's going to be much of anything this year. But I definitely think that the Rays stern competition, the Orioles even more stern competition, and just overall in the American League, I think the Astros will probably be up there again. I know last year they weren't as much, and the Texas Rangers, the World Series winners, they're going to be up there again, and they have a stellar rotation coming back. So it's definitely going to be an interesting year, but I expect, in my opinion, an improvement.
Hmm. Okay. So right now there is like a very difficult you had to see for the defense, and they're out to the student love for this one because everything that's gonna win the All American League is beyond. I mean, at the best, because they have the best tactical protection the Metas over the last 25 years. That's mostly outcome because it it doesn't see we're not screwing it up. But I mean, between Toronto has a more finished product on the field, and they are also still there, and they have a more of the experience under the belt. But I think they were able to functionally with the bullpen is carry shallow. But I think it is gonna be like the only offer on the table is the top three, so that will be like a pretty move. And I mean, the opinion is the price will come down enough for a more just for a team to bid enough for the teams, but who never knows about it. So right now, it is the final question. So we're just gonna wrap it up. So right now, thank you very much, Big Blue and the Bronx outlet. So where can we find you on the social media to get involved with this, a lot of content? And thank you so much to be here on this special episode of Let Them Speak. So last thoughts or where can find you on social media to people see your content?
Yeah, so YouTube is our main source of content. We're putting out a lot of player interviews that happened at the Senior Bowl. We're doing right now 3 a day, but again, a lot of sneaky talented guys, a lot of known guys as well. Christian Haynes, Spencer Rattler, as I mentioned before, a couple other different guys. And also we're working on getting the content back, of course. The Giants offseason is going to be pretty interesting to what they're doing with the quarterback situation. Spring training is coming up very much soon. So we're looking to do some more content on that. And I'm mainly active on Twitter at B Blue in the Bronx, as my handle does say. But Raf, I do appreciate you having me on.
Yes. And of course, my social media is that Capitán Rafucho on Twitter, also on Instagram, also on YouTube. And thank you very much to having us for the special episode during that live on Let Them Speak, talking about for the Senior Bowl and what's going to happen between the NFL draft and some other topics between the sports entertainment. Thank you very much. And I will see you there next time. So I hope you have a great week. And of course, it's been a lot of pressure with El Capitán Rafucho, as known as Rafael Chacín. So have a great one. And of course, good night, everyone.